the DeerLand podcast. It's episode number 8. We're here at DeerLand HQ tonight. I'm your host, Mike Bully, and in the studio tonight we have the one and only Tyler Sellens. How are you, Tyler?
Doing well, Mike.
And sitting next to him, we have Mr. Louie Zinn. What do you know, Lou?
I'm doing good, Mike.
Good
to be here.
And also this evening, we have a special guest to talk about something that I didn't know a whole lot about, but I'm very intrigued to learn more about. From Warsaw, Illinois, it's Joe Clarke. How are you, Joe?
Fine, Mike. Thanks for having us aboard.
You bet. So I guess we'll check in on how things have been going. Anybody been doing any hunting lately?
Well, it's funny you say that. I don't think I've been in the woods since opening day of shotgun season.
So first shotgun November
season.
16th. All right, so that's only 28 days.
You know.
Yeah, it's that time of year. It's like the December lull.
For hunters,
right?
You know?
Right.
If it was 10 degrees out and snow on the ground, I'd be in the
exactly.
blind.
Yep.
Temperatures have been, not extremely warm, but not cold enough to really see a lot of deer. But I sat tonight. It's the first time all year I got skunked. I didn't see a deer. So
wow.
I think everyone needs at least a skunk or two, though,
just to keep
you going.
Yep, and I think I've had one or two as well. That just kind of humbles you a little bit, but. It's been more like second, third week of October type weather.
Yeah.
Not your typical second week of December weather, but the next week looks kind of warm still. So
you kind of seeing them switching from grains to greens to grains to greens.
Yep.
So you just got to figure out when they're going to be on which food source. And
that's right. So last weekend was our muzzleloader season, and I did get out. I only hunted Sunday night, and I took my 3-year-old son out for our first ever hunt, his first ever hunt of any kind. He'd never been out a field to hunt anything. So we got out to the Banks Blind and got all settled in, and had a couple does come out at like 3 o'clock, a little after 3 o'clock, 100 yards. And they were due southwest of me, right where the sun was starting to set, harder to see. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get one in closer than 100 yards. And we'd only been in there 15, 20 minutes. So we just kind of watched them, let them feed off. Well, after about a half hour of them being out and about and me having a 3-year-old in the blind, they started figuring out that something wasn't quite right. We weren't being stupid loud, but, we weren't being stealthy either. So they finally worked their way off. And then last 20 minutes of sunlight, we did have another doe come out and went back to that back bean plot of mine. And I was showing Riker, hey, let's look at the deer. And he's like, Daddy, we got to shoot this thing. I'm like, I don't know. She's back there a ways. And so, it'd go a couple minutes. He's like, Daddy, we going to shoot this thing? So he finally talked me in and said, all right, we're going to try to take a shot at this thing. So I was trying to get a range on her. And, she's standing in standing beans, and she's out there a poke. And I thought I had a range at like 175 maybe, but it just didn't seem right because I could have swore that the edge of those beans was like 135. Anyway, so I shot at her for 175, and I missed her so bad she didn't even lift her head up out of the beans from eating. She just kept on eating, and had my boy in there. He was standing right behind me, and I just bought a pair of these Walker's Game Ear razors. And they're fantastic ear protection, and they've got the knob you can turn on where it has speakers, so I could just sit and talk to him, have a conversation with him, but it still provided him with protection. And he was a little thrown off. That muzzleloader barked and filled the whole blind with smoke, and he's, Daddy, that's smoky in here. And I said, well, that's kind of part of it. And
you're supposed to stick the barrel out the window.
Yeah, it was out, but the way the wind was going, it was just kind of coming right back at us. And then he's like, all right, well, let's go back home, I guess. And so we got packed up and got back home. But he had a really good time. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. He did do some watching cartoons on my phone for a little while. But overall, he did well. So that's the only time that I've been out. But I think I'm going to try to get out and get another doe or two shot. Tyler and I have some plans to try to do some summer sausage and snack sticks and stuff. And we could use a little bit more meat. So hopefully here coming up we can get that done. So anybody else plan on hunting anytime soon, or are you going to wait on that cold weather to really get out there and do much?
I think when it gets cold, I'll hit the woods. I think I heard Bowley Farms has some standing beans. So
we do. Plenty. There's plenty to go around.
And it sounds like there might be a little bit of a doe problem out there.
There's a few running around from what I've heard.
Does anybody shoot does up that way?
No, not near as much as we probably should. I mean, we're fortunate that we don't have a whole lot of hunting pressure. We talk about it sometimes, but there's not a whole lot of people hunting this section.
Sure.
At the most, maybe gun season, there's, I don't know, 8 to 10 people, total for gun season. But outside of that, bow hunting, there's probably 4 or 5. And of those, the guys that go out more than 10 times a year, there's probably one, me.
Sure.
I mean, so the herd could use more does taken out. I think we counted 7 or 8 bucks that have been harvested this year on this section, and I think 4 does. So we could definitely use to have a couple more taken off the land. And I gave my first 2 deer away to people that use them to feed their family throughout the year, and I still had some meat left over from last year. I've kept the third one, so I thought I'll go ahead and take 1 or 2 more and
Sure.
See what Tyler does too. So
I'd like about 1 more doe, then I'd be ready to do some summer sausage. And
yep.
Yeah.
turns in a lot of work.
It does. Do it once,
Yeah. I just dropped a couple does off at the locker plant. Would have been Wednesday. So it's that time of year when we're going to start getting our bologna and our steaks back. And
Yep. You going to the same place you've always gone down there at Prairie Land, or?
Yeah. Yep. I've had real good luck with them down there at Bowen. So
I thought about trying the new one in Carthage. I've heard from a couple guys that have done business with them, and they've been happy so far. I've been wanting to try their deer brats. I love bratwurst anyways. I thought, well, maybe try some brats. But I got to reach out to them and see as far as bringing in deboned meat, how much minimum poundage per product do you need. I know like in Cahokia, I think it was like 10 pounds per flavor of sausage and snack sticks and stuff. So I'd like to try some of their brats and give that a shot. But it is nice to have another option up towards Carthage. I mean, we didn't have anything in the northern half of the county. We were without a locker anywhere close by. So nice to see that up and going.
Yep. I've heard a lot of good things about them.
It's a good asset to have. I think nice, brand new facility, clean, and I think they're trying to do it the right way. So
Yep. That's the easiest way to get it done is just to drop it off.
it is.
I was going to say, we're doing it the hard way. It's way easy just to write that check and be done.
Yeah.
But
I figure I'll try this once. Come next year, I may tell Tyler, I'm not interested. Or mine's already done.
We still make some jerky every now and then. We'll have a doe or two. I'll tell them, hey, 10, 15 pounds of burger, and then we'll take that burger and use it for jerky, or we'll put a little sausage seasoning in it or something for breakfast sausage. But it's they do you just those big rolls of bologna when they stick the cheese and the jalapeno and stuff in it. It's just like you can try to do that at home with your stuffers, but man, they got it down to a science.
They do.
we did that last year though. We just we went to Cahokia.
Mm-hmm.
And he will actually sell you the seasoning
yeah.
of the same of what they do, their summer sausage. Don't ask him what's in it because he's not going to tell you, but you just tell him how many pounds of meat you have, and he'll just go mix it out and say, there you go, and you can buy your heat cheese and jalapenos. So we kind of made some different recipes and stuff, found some flavors we liked, and some we probably won't try again, but it was fun to do. It was a lot of work, but enjoyed doing it. It was...
Yeah, you're doing it more for just the experience and, hang out with your dad and, camaraderie for a day. And it's not necessarily to save money, because time is money.
It's a tradition just like deer camp or anything else. It's fun.
So, all right. Well, we've got some big things coming up here. We're hoping for the DeerLand podcast. Been in contact with, several potential guests and have received some great feedback from some pretty big names in the hunting and outdoor industry that said they'd love to join us. So we'll try to get some of those details worked out for you. We're running out of season. We got, pretty much a month left. So we're going to have a lot of time to talk about other things than our hunting experiences. So we got a lot of great ideas and topics we want to cover, and a lot of great people and personalities that we want to bring on and get their point of view on things as well. But today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. As I said, we have Joe Clarke here with us today, and Joe is representing a new company that come from my hometown in Warsaw, Illinois. It's called Warsaw Caviar, and I got to admit I didn't really know much about caviar. Seen it on Facebook like a lot of other people, and I thought, well, what is this? And at first I thought, well, maybe it's one of these like weird ads or something that Warsaw, Indiana. I didn't know, and then I realized no, this is Warsaw, Illinois. And it's caviar, and it's being produced. And I think us three guys here at the DeerLand podcast, well, none of us knew a whole lot about it, and you were the perfect guy to get on and give us a little bit of history of maybe how you guys got into the caviar business, and a little bit about the caviar, and just what you guys got going on over there in Warsaw.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having us on.
You bet.
A group of us been fishing for sturgeon for probably, 10 or 15 years, and selling our roe to some folks that traveled up here from Tennessee. And they've been in the business for about 30 years, and they found that there's a pretty good pool right here in the Mississippi River, right by Warsaw, that gives out some pretty good sturgeon roe, hackleback sturgeon, what we're after. And we've been selling to those folks for 10 years, a little bit, and we're just hobby fishermen. We just hit it once a week, maybe, if that, even during the season. And the season runs from October 1st to May 31st. And during the wintertime, of course, when it gets really cold, nobody really fishes too much. So, it's kind of a couple months in the fall and a couple months in the spring, and that's about, what we did. Now, there are other, unbeknownst to us, there's other fishermen that are out there all the time.
Right.
Yeah. But we've been selling to those folks for a while, and we've always thought, what could it be if we were in their shoes, So, last year we were visiting with them, and they're in their upper 70s, and they've been in the business for a long time from Tennessee, and Perry and Sylvia Chisholm out of Tiptonville, Tennessee, and they're very good people. And anyway, they asked us if we would be interested in learning a little bit about what they did. And there are 5 of us that got together: Stuart Froman, Brian Froman, Lance Labonte, and Doug Belt, and myself, and said, yeah, we'd be happy to learn it. So anyway, they took us kind of under their wing, showed us some pretty secret things,
right.
How to process, what it takes to make it happen, and kind of been watching us. They came up this fall. This is our first season. They came up this fall and oversaw us and everything, and we have been very happy with the results.
Really good.
Yeah.
So it's called Warsaw Caviar.
Mm-hmm.
The pool here is Pool 20, right near Warsaw. All you guys are from Warsaw. Was there ever a point where you thought this was something you guys may be doing? I mean, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you what, we enjoyed the fishing.
Yep.
It was fun. It was a little bit of a way to make a little extra money for our group to have some fun. We buy a TV or something, or whatever, another item for our boat, something like that, And we thought, we didn't think, we never really thought about it being as a second income, So we're looking at it kind of as that. We all have full-time jobs,
right.
Work day every day. So we're doing this in the evenings and the weekends, and it's taken up a little bit of time, but I'll tell you what, it's very fun. It was very satisfying. We've sold our caviar all over the country, and rave results. It's like we are so ecstatic about it. And Sylvia told us, she said, if you do what we do, you're going to be successful.
Wow.
And we have followed her instructions to a T, and folks have gotten back to us with just beautiful. They said beautiful, delicious. This is awesome. Keep it coming. That kind of thing. You know.
And if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, I would have to imagine that on a local level, you've probably done a lot of educating. Kind of like with us. I mean, being born and raised in Warsaw myself, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of population that just don't know much about caviar. A lot of times it comes with a stigma of wealth or expense or, high class, and that's not necessarily the case. I know all of you guys, and none of you guys are that way. You're just good old boys that, work hard for a living, and it can be for anybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't know much about it ourselves, and so we taste it, so every so often, and it's okay, it's good, we like it. Doesn't have any kind of a issue with us. We found out though that in the different populations of the United States, there's a fairly large Russian population, Eastern European. And they were raised on caviar.
No kidding.
It's not like a delicacy to those folks. It's like a mainstay.
Okay.
In fact, Perry Chisholm, one of our mentors, he said people from those countries, they eat this stuff like hog meat.
No kidding.
And I said, hog meat? He goes, yeah, hog meat, like bacon, sausage for breakfast. I said, really?
Wow.
And he said, yeah, that's like a mainstay. They start their kids on it from when they're just old enough to eat. He said because of the health benefits of it. There's it's a great, what you call it, omega-3.
Yep. Fatty acid.
Exactly. It's very good in a lot of vitamins. It's a blood builder. People that have issues with blood, and so cancer people, with leukemia, they really, some doctors swear by it. So, they'll promote it, so that's what we found. And so a lot of people that we sell to wholesalers
Right.
a lot, pretty big volumes, but a lot of people we sell to are just individuals that benefit from the health. They want it for the health benefits.
So that's what I was curious about. This is your guys' first year kind of getting things up and going. I was wondering if you had enough feedback or information to get an idea of kind of what your target audience has been, or,
I'll tell you what, we have got a lot of a target and audience, I guess, or outlet. Our biggest problem is trying to get product.
That's what I want. And that's a good problem to have, I
It
guess.
is.
I mean, I guess if you guys had pallets of this stuff stacked up, nobody wanted to buy it, then you might want to look at doing something different.
Right. And that, going into it, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we were like, well, we're going to have too much product, not be able to get rid of it, and all this. So we're testing the waters everywhere, and we found out that so far that we could buy more and get rid of it. We could get rid of it.
Wow.
Because our stuff has been well received in the marketplace, and surprisingly enough, the caviar industry is a really tight knit.
I figured so.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's probably a point where it helps to have the mentors that you have that have those connections and maybe could vouch for you or send you in the right direction.
That's really a good start for us. We got a lot of feedback from customers that said, "Hey, we know you guys are taking over for Sylvia. Would you guys want to sell us some, and we'll test it out?" And then we got the reviews back, and then we sent our product to some wholesalers, and once they got it, we were on pins and needles.
Oh, I bet.
Oh my God, the first shipment, you send 50 pounds of caviar to a guy in New York City, and you're like waiting to find out what happens. And it happened to be, we ship on a Wednesday, they get it Thursday. They're waiting till the next week to try it out, and we're like, oh my God. Anyway,
that's a long wait.
Yeah.
That's a long wait.
So the fellow, he calls us on, I think, Tuesday, and he's like, Joe, he goes, I tell you what, we tested your stuff over the weekend or early, and send us all you got.
Wow.
Like that. So, and we're up to a certain point with him, but he
Yeah.
says, send us all you got. So,
Wow.
So we're doing that. And then of course, at that point, we're, we want to have all our eggs in one basket.
Yep.
So do I start, do I keep contacting other people? Because I know we're fighting to get product, And so I call a guy out in Seattle, and he doesn't even carry our product. He sells other kind of caviar.
Uh-huh.
And there's maybe there's several different species, so there's different price points attributed to those
I see.
species.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a your Iranian caviar and your Eastern European caviar. There's farmed caviar. There's paddlefish. There's bowfin, which are the lower ends, and hackleback's kind of right in the middle. And so he doesn't carry ours. So I called him up and talking to him, and he says, well, out here in Seattle, we have a price point, and yours is kind of right in the middle, and we don't want to necessarily branch out too much. And I said, I've heard that because they're happy with this paddlefish caviar, and he says, but and I go, well, I've heard that from other buyers too. And he says, I'll tell you what. He goes, you got any to sell? And I said, yeah, we have some. He goes, can you send me 9 pounds? I said, sure. I can send you 9 pounds. He goes, can you give me 3 different lots? I want to test your consistency. I said, yeah, no problem. We got that. So I sent him the 9 pounds and 3 different lots. And, it was another one of those things over a weekend, so you're waiting to hear. Of course, we knew we already had good product.
Right.
And so but just waiting to see what he says. And so he calls me up on Tuesday. He says, hey, Joe. He says, I took your stuff, took your caviar, and we had some chefs in from the Pacific Rim, Japan, that, and loved it.
Wow.
He says, we are not selling your caviar, your brand right now, or your species, but you may have changed my mind.
Wow.
And we're like, that. I'm like, that's great. He goes, tell you what, keep me posted, because I told him, I said, we're actually out of product right now, So he says, keep me posted. When you get more product in, let me know. So that's kind of how it's been going. And I turned down an order for 200 pounds last week. We just don't have the product. And 20 pounds Tuesday.
Wow.
And people just want it. And so we've actually gotten these small amounts that we've got left over, and we've been selling those locally, by the ounce, and to give people around here a chance to get it, because they don't have to pay the shipping.
Right.
That's the big thing. When somebody wants to, maybe get an ounce of caviar from someplace, they don't want to buy a pound, but they want an ounce or 2 ounces. The shipping is going to be more than the caviar from some other place, but we've got it right here for the Quincy area.
Tri-state area.
Yeah, tri-state area, exactly. So we've been exactly. So it's been working out really well that way. So.
You got Christmas coming up, so
Yep.
folks might want some caviar.
Yep.
So when you get going in this first year, I mean, do you have plans on trying to grow next year? I mean, to be able to provide more of a product, or
that's what Mike, thank you. Yeah, we've been actually working on that right now, trying to find more fishermen, making contact with fishermen. We got some competition, so we've got to, and we're trying to make it the best for the fisherman himself too. I mean, we're working on both ends. We want to make sure that our customers are happy. We want to make sure our suppliers are happy. So the fishermen are the key to the whole thing. If we can make sure that they're getting paid appropriately, that's what we're trying to do. We actually upped our price to most fishermen around here to try and get more product. The weather's been terrible. The river was terrible this year.
All fall, a big river even late into the fall, and it's not normal.
Yeah, the big river hurt us bad.
But I just don't know. It's easy for me to say I don't have a horse in this game, but to have a product that's in demand but the stock is low, I mean high demand and low availability, that's not always a bad thing. That keeps people interested, and it makes you feel a little bit better too. I mean, obviously with a product like this, people aren't buying it because Joe Clarke is selling it.
Right.
People aren't buying it because it's in a nice package or whatever. They're buying it because this is good and they can sell it and provide it to their customers or their whoever. If the product wasn't good, it don't matter who you are or what you make it look like. It's got to be a good product. So when you've got it in that hype of a demand, and you send it out and people are all raving about it, you're doing something right.
Right.
So I think that's the first step of this whole business is, you got the great product. Now you just got to figure out how you can, how you can grow it.
Yeah.
And,
and to expand on that, with again the fellow that I talked about in New York City, who's our one of our big wholesale buyers. He had dealt with Sylvia before, Sylvia and Perry, so he knew what to expect, but he hadn't dealt with us.
Yep.
So when we sent that out to him, he was ecstatic. Well, then nobody else knows us, so we sent samples to several different entities, I guess, if you want to call them that, and got just the same kind of response. It's like, one, we're like waiting, and she said, okay. She says, well, you got good stuff. So how can I help? How can I get some of this? That kind of thing.
and that's what you want to hear with a
Yeah.
new business. I mean,
Yeah.
that you've got something that's good that people want, and then you've just got to figure out, how you can make it happen going forward. I mean,
Exactly. So that's we're looking for fishermen. We've explored the opportunity of heading over to the Wabash River and helping those fishermen out by offering our prices to those guys.
and whereabouts is that at? I don't.
On the eastern side of Illinois.
It is, okay.
Yeah, all the way along the border
Of Indiana? Okay.
Yeah, and so we'd be happy to. Their river's about like ours this year.
Oh, yeah.
It's been really high, and they have a certain kind of river they need to be successful. So a lot of them haven't been fishing yet. So everybody's looking to the spring. We're looking for a dynamite spring. So
Good,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. But not that the fall hasn't been bad. It's just could have been way more than we had even hoped for, so
and when you talk about people buying a pound of caviar, that's a lot of caviar. So typically,
lot.
Locally when you're selling it retail, what sizes are you offering?
We're selling 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce. We do have a 2 ounce, but we're probably, that's to the limit of our containers that we have.
Okay.
So we're limited by the containers we can
see.
serve in, but we can go an 8 ounce or a pound or 3 pounds.
Yep.
So, but the little small tins we can put an ounce or 1.5 ounces. We've been selling to some couple restaurants in Quincy.
Really?
And we just got in there.
Okay.
So they're going to put it on their New Year's Eve menu, the main course and Bootaloo. couple
Oh,
of
yeah.
great restaurants
Yep.
in Quincy, and we're anxious to hear the feedback. The chefs there were like flabbergasted when we gave it to them to try. They're like, yeah, we're going to make this work, So, but we want to hear what their people say, the customers, the people that eat it.
And that's the thing about this business, and I'm sure of it. I'm not speaking because I know for a fact, but you guys are growing this and sending stuff New York, Seattle, we've talked about, but you're also giving a focus here to the tri-states. And I know, you yourself and, your other guys that are, in this with you, the tri-states means a lot to them. You give back a lot. And it's something that I think you're just as excited about offering to people around here that maybe wasn't as readily available before or as talked about before. Nobody ever talked about caviar. And now you can. And so I think that's an exciting feature that, your only focus isn't just we got to try to find a way to get 500 pounds to send out west and out east. And, you're still trying to find ways to get into the restaurants here, locally, 30 miles away.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Big volume is a big thing for us, but we were talking over the last 2 or 3 weeks, as strategically going forward, we want to reserve maybe 20-30% for those retail sales that we can do locally, that kind of thing. Give folks a chance that they don't have to pay shipping.
Yep.
Shipping, overnight shipping, what you got to do with caviar is extravagant, So these folks that we sell to individually on the East Coast, West Coast, they're buying, 2 or 3 pounds at a time just so they can break down the shipping over it.
Wow.
So, because the shipping is going to be $80 or $100.
And even then, are you having to dry ice it or?
Sure. Sure. We dry ice and put ice packs in, and, it works out well. We're FedEx is overnight early morning delivery. So that's kind of thing. So it does add up the shipping, but they figure that into the cost because they're going to be buying it from somebody else, and our prices are in line with quite a bit lower than most big caviar houses.
So their net result, at the end of the day, they're not too far off what they would pay for something locally, but they feel they're getting a better product.
Sure. Yeah, they might be in New York, but they're going to pay a lot more for it, and it's not going to be as good as ours for one thing.
Yeah.
They're happy with our product, the quality, and so they take a look at that. We're selling, probably wholesale costs as retail to most people around here, and even to New York and all that. So, but there's a little, 10 pounds, $10 a pound. It makes a difference for people.
Right.
So,
and it's still. I'm still looking forward to try it. Of course, I like fish and wild game and stuff like that. So I'm sure I'll like it.
Would be nice to try some of that.
Yeah,
Mike,
I
wouldn't it?
apologize.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
I apologize. I didn't bring any out tonight. I'm so sorry.
But
I should have known.
and we'll get a chance to try some,
Oh, yeah.
and we'll
Oh, yeah.
definitely do a follow up, even if we can't get Joe back on, at least on a future episode. I'm going to tell you about what I thought of it. And,
Sure.
Obviously it's something I know I will enjoy, but I'm just curious to see what I think about it.
I'll tell you what. Most people, I guess that are around from, let's say, Warsaw here, that have tried it, have been, I don't know what you want to call it, surprised.
Right.
They didn't think it was going to, they thought they were looking at some sort of fishy,
Yep.
Gag me kind of thing. But it's really not that way. It's really a smooth, nutty, buttery kind of taste. And, myself, I don't know if I see the big allure where you'd spend thousands of dollars for like some people do, but they do.
And I think a lot of that, to be quite honest with you, is more of just a status symbol in, some of these higher income areas or, your Beverly Hills or, your bigger cities. I think a lot of that is, have people over, you go to a restaurant and order this just because you can.
Sure. And that's one thing that I see a lot on the websites, and in our research that we've done in market research is that they have the high-end caviar that they want to sell, and people buy it. But to get everyday caviar that you can enjoy, and it's just almost as good as this,
right,
is ours,
Yeah.
our kind,
Yep.
and so that's where we're at, and makes it really affordable, I guess. You're not gonna, every day.
Yeah, no, we're not going to be. It's not going to be like bacon and eggs, but it's still something you can treat yourself with.
Sure.
Do you know how many different types of caviar there are out there, Joe? Or
God.
I think you touched on, I don't remember if you did, what we have specifically around here that you guys are doing. Is it
Yeah.
hackleback or?
The hackleback
Yeah,
section.
we're doing hackleback, but there's also in the Mississippi River, which I should say is one of the only remaining waterways that you can legally catch caviar or sturgeon out of, I should say. There's hackleback and there's paddlefish, and there's bowfin. Those are the three that I know of that are in the United States that are legal to catch. There are a lot of farmed caviar, or sturgeon, I should say, in the United States. So they've imported some sturgeon and they've started farming them. But the wild caught is that allure of the wild caught, and the taste of it is better, that kind of thing. As far as we have heard from everybody, the farmed stuff, just about like anything else, has a little bit different taste.
Well, just like catfish.
Yeah, exactly.
We can go to the Walmart or whatever and buy pond raised catfish. Well,
yeah.
And to some people, my wife would probably say, well, I like that pond raised catfish better than the stuff we get out of the river. But to some of us guys that grew up eating that catfish out of the river, it doesn't taste like the pond raised catfish.
It's kind of like your butterball versus your wild turkey.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
That's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on biology, but I think there's 28 or 30 different species of sturgeon, and sturgeon are really the only thing that should be called caviar, although the government has allowed other species to be called caviar as long as they say the name of the fish, like lumpfish caviar. It's not really caviar, it's lumpfish, but there's other kinds out there. But and paddlefish is a cousin of sturgeon, so they've allowed that. It's really a caviar. But some of these others that they may see that are really cheap, you might see them at Walmart for $7 or $5. It's not really caviar. So I hate for people to taste that and say, oh, that's what that's going to be, but it's because it's not even close.
So and something else that I wanted to get clear for our listeners as well. Some people may hear sturgeon, and depending on where you're hearing this at, if you're up in Wisconsin, the big lakes of Wisconsin, they have some of their lake sturgeon that it's a big deal for them when sturgeon season opens, and they'll go out on the ice and spear them or whatever. And some of these are 70-year-old fish, just monstrous fish. And,
sure.
And this isn't quite what you guys are doing. I mean, you're not just taking out a bunch of 60, 70-year-old fish from the river and taking their eggs from them. I mean,
right. Yeah, those fish are not allowed actually to be used for caviar.
Yeah.
So
because there's like tags and stuff. I mean, it's a like a big game species up there as like what we have down
like
here.
Like a prehistoric fish.
Yeah. That's sport fishing.
Right.
Yeah, and they're only allowed so many. So commercial fishing, there's a definite season, there's a definite limit on size.
You said there's a slot limit.
There's a slot limit. In different areas, it's different. So
Yep.
the Mississippi has a slot limit. The Wabash has a slot limit for different things, So it's all regulated very highly by the DNR, and that's a good thing because the fishery people that run that know what they're doing.
That's right.
We got Rob Mayer down in Alton. He's a expert, and he's the man that makes it happen. So
because either way, I mean, you look at this is the DeerLand podcast, and you look at the white-tailed deer and the numbers that happened with it at the beginning of the 20th century, and the reason of that is because they were commercialized. You were able to sell the meat to restaurants, the hides, and all that. So you had these commercial hunters going out and just annihilating the game, and almost to the point of eradication, and then you had to step in, and the government stepped in and put these regulations on it. And so even though this is something you guys are making a little bit of money on, you still are glad that there are regulations on this species, and that the people in the government are watching where it's at, and to make sure it's sustainable.
Right,
so for hundreds of years to come,
you've got to have that
Exactly.
government regulation. Otherwise, otherwise it's not a sustainable fishery,
Right.
and it will just get. I mean, I hate to say it, but mankind will just wipe it out if it was just opened up as a free for all.
Right, and you hear about beluga caviar out of Russia. So when the Soviet Union fell, that actually was a terrible thing for the beluga sturgeon, because it got overfished and there wasn't anybody watching it for several years, and it got out of control. So that happens to be that particular fish cannot be exported or anything between nations and all that. It's pretty and highly regulated. So in the United States, that's why the same thing happened here. Around the turn of the century, they placed some limits on sturgeon, and where they could be fished and everything. The lake sturgeon, like you said, those are, getting overfished and almost, to the point of eradication. So they placed them in the endangered species list and such. And so hackleback it had bordered on that, but now they've got their fishery under control, and I think it's a lot better now. Paddlefish is not so much, but they're pretty wide open on that. But,
Yeah, and I think another thing to talk about with the hackleback is it's not necessarily a premier sport fish.
Right,
It's
right.
not something that people are going out hoping to catch.
Right.
I'm sure that many people around here have caught one at some point. But I know myself, growing up in Warsaw for years, smoked hackleback was a huge thing, and
Awesome.
it is very good meat as well. So not only does it provide a great roe for the caviar, but it does have a good it's a high fatty meat. But when you smoke it, and like just taking it fresh out of the fridge and just grabbing a handful of that stuff,
smoked hackleback,
oh
yeah.
yes, just
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, and actually, fresh hackleback meat itself it fries up.
Does it
awesome.
really?
Very awesome, yeah. And it's a little bit difficult to dress a hackleback.
Oh, okay.
But if you take the time and do it right, it's awesome. I tell you what, it's just as good as anything you've ever ate as far as fried fish.
I'll up my order, Joe. I'd take a little more now that I know this.
Yeah, but you got to catch them before they get frozen.
Yeah.
or get them before they get frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the one thing that I always noticed is they have a very stout skin on them. So I guess
Do you dress those from the bottom side on a sturgeon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would. Yeah, they're scaleless. So,
Right.
So they're not what you call kosher fish.
Okay.
So I've learned that.
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah.
In my talk, because I was thinking, about what communities we can market to and all that kind of thing, and they're what they call scaleless fish. So in the Bible, it talks about scales and such, and so that's one thing about them. So we're always looking for different ways to market. So
yeah, and I think it just to bring attention to a species that is in our river. I think sometimes for us that grew up right on the Mississippi River, we see a lot of people that maybe take it for granted or just say, oh, that's just a dirty old nasty thing. I don't know why you'd ever go in it, eat anything from it, recreate on it. But myself, being an old river rat, there's nothing better for me to get out on that river, jump in. You may get a couple mouthfuls of water here and there, but to eat fish from it, shoot ducks that fly over it, this is just another species that's in there that otherwise I think would go unnoticed a lot of times.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things we're talking to one of the restaurant owners down in Quincy, and he's like, who'd have thought I've been sitting here talking to some old, hicks from Warsaw about caviar, and all that, and he tasted it, and he says, hey, this is great. He goes, not up to me though, it's up to my chef.
Yeah.
So he gets the chef out, and the chef tastes it, and he's like, yes, I can do things with this.
Wow.
So he
And,
says,
and
this
that's
is
kind of the irony in it all, you know. I mean, just a bunch of good old boys, from a small town that have taken this venture on. But I think it's just fantastic. I liken it to, people need to try new things, be open to try new things. Something that I haven't done yet, but I'm going to try is I want to try deer heart. And the more I watch other online programming and stuff like that, you see that it's a very common thing, and it's one of the best tasting meats that you can have is the heart. And so one of these days I'm going to try it up and, prepare one up and see what it's like. And I guess before I was just always like, I don't know, it's an organ. But I like chicken livers, love chicken livers, and gizzards. And so I thought, well, what's the difference? I mean, it's the same thing. And so I'm going to try one. And, maybe if I get one of these does on the ground, I might pull the heart out and, prepare it on a recipe, and just trying to stay open-minded and have a chance to eat local stuff, fresh stuff, stuff where you know where it come from.
Right, and that's one of the folks in Quincy, when they said that, it's not so much that we're going to have caviar on our menu, but we're having local caviar. That's because they said we can buy caviar anywhere, but we can have local caviar.
And I think
it tastes so good.
Yes, and their patrons will maybe be a little more apt to try it, knowing that it comes from right here locally. To me, that's a big thing.
Yeah, one of the things that the five of us, we know what we're doing. We know what we've done, and we've seen it. We've heard all these things, but we didn't have anything to compare it to. So on Cyber Monday, one of the companies I had been calling to about trying to sell to, the company actually said, you know what, we don't buy our own caviar. We get it from another place that repackages it with our name on it. So anyway, on Cyber Monday, they had a big sale. So I'm like, I'm going to buy some of this and check it out. So sent it in. And I took it down, and Stuart Froman and I myself, and we tried it, and I'm like, there's no comparison here. So he's like, yeah, I mean, theirs is like 3 times as much as ours with shipping, plus shipping.
Wow.
So I took it down to to one of our local restaurants, DJs.
Yep.
And DJs, and there's about, we did a blind taste test with like 8 people in there, and didn't tell them whose was what, and we just said, and then I think to a T, none of them had ever tried caviar.
Wow.
So they're getting something they never had before, and to every one of them, this is the better one for sure. This one's whatever.
Right.
And it was ours.
They picked yours.
Yeah, and so we were like, gosh dang it, now we know what we're dealing with, because these people never have had caviar before. So.
And that's the thing about a food or beverage product. If you're honest to yourself, as obviously all of you guys are, you let the product speak for itself, and you can put it up against this competition. And some people think, well, just because this other one costs 3 times as more, it's going to be that much better. Well, you're wrong in a lot of things.
Right.
And, obviously this spoke for itself. I mean,
yeah, and I wouldn't be here today touting it if I didn't believe in that.
And that's the thing. And again, knowing you and all of you guys, I wouldn't ask you to come on if I thought that all you're wanting to do is just try to make more money. I mean, I know this is something you're not in it for the money for. It's a hobby that obviously you don't want to lose money in the venture.
Right.
Well,
I'll tell you what, it goes back to Sylvia and Perry, the folks that we learned from and taught us everything we know. They're so happy that we're carrying on their tradition. They have kids, but their kids have chosen to go to other professions, and we're just up here, and they see us every year, and so we took on the task of learning what they knew, and they're just so happy that we are carrying on their tradition, and we're not letting it go to waste. That's what Sylvia said. We were so worried that our life's work was going to go to nothing.
Yep.
And now you guys are carrying on. It's something else.
And I truly believe that, with the folks you guys have, that this is something that I think my grandkids will see as a Warsaw staple, that 30, 40 years from now you can still get Warsaw Caviar.
We hope so, to pass it on from generation to generation.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly.
So I would, circling back to your mentors, I just assumed that they have no product out this year. I mean, that they have ceased.
They retired, and so everybody that's been calling them, Sylvia gives me a text or calls me up and says, hey, you need to call Valentina, or you need to call Gerard or whatever.
Yeah.
Some guy who's in Brooklyn or in San Francisco or Las Vegas. These folks are, and most of them are all Russian.
Yep.
But that's what they've marketed to, so, and they knew those folks, so that's what we've been doing, and just give them a call back, and it's like, in our business, it's so tight knit, we'll ship them the product and they'll send us a check. That's how it goes, and we won't do that to everybody, but with those folks,
and again, us growing up here in a small town, I mean, we've done stuff like that all of our lives.
Sure,
I mean, it gets tougher and tougher to do. But, somebody, or their folks, or, their uncle or something, you're more apt to give them a handshake and, take their word on it. And because to a lot of people, their name and reputation means more than, any type of money or, anything like that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and that's the fellow from Seattle, we're visiting. He's called me a few times since just to see how things are going, and we talk and talk, and he's got, 30 years experience too. And he said, I'll tell you what, Joe, you're way too easy with me. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, you shipped me 9 pounds, and you just said, send me a check. And I'm like, well, I know you. I mean, I feel like I know you.
Right.
You've been in the business for this many years.
You're not going anywhere.
You're not going to
He's not getting 9 more pounds if he doesn't.
Exactly. Well, that's for sure. That's for sure.
That's the other way to look at it, too.
And then he told me, he goes, I know this fellow. And I said, oh, I know him, because he's another fellow on the East Coast that I've dealt with. And he used him for a reference. And I'm like, I don't need a reference, just, and things just happen, like that. And he said, in this business, we're all really close. We know everybody. And he says, but with your individuals, watch it.
Yes.
So I told him, I said, I only am selling, on the check method to people that Sylvia has given me.
Kind of validated.
Exactly.
And it's kind of a niche industry, just for, if any, no other reason than the availability of the product that's needed. I mean, you can't just get it anywhere.
Right.
So I would also presume that Sylvia and what was his name?
Barry.
Were they approved of your product? I mean,
they made sure we were doing it correctly. And,
okay.
They wouldn't let us go on our own unless they were, and they wouldn't tell their customers about us unless they were very satisfied with how we were processing. So, and we've been inspected by the county, the state, and we're registered with the FDA. So
really,
yeah, we've got all the bells and whistles, and everything. So, functioning and very well, good asset plan, and everything.
Great.
So
we're-
Joe, you guys get a lot of your product from. I know you said in years past you've done some fishing and maybe sold some of that to maybe
the
process.
chisels, yeah. Uh-huh,
So you're getting a lot of the eggs from fishermen and stuff, and what's kind of the basic process of caviar? Is it's obviously the eggs.
Yeah, yeah. You get the eggs, and you pick through them, inspect them. You do a little bit of a rinse, and you add some salt, and you do some other things.
Yeah.
that we won't tell.
Yeah,
them,
I'm not
yeah,
asking
but that's really the basic
I-
thing. That's
and I
really
guess
the basics is rinsing it and making sure that everything's clean, and then rinsing it, salting it, curing it, and there's some little things in there. But,
Right.
packaging.
But,
and
yeah,
stuff. Okay.
packaging. Yep. That's it. Yep.
I kind of
really,
knew what it was, but I just didn't know if there was.
It's a fairly simple process.
But it's all in the details.
It's all in the details, exactly. And there's some details that the Chisholms have taught us that those are the things that make us different. Because, everybody's kind of doing it the same way, but we have a certain way that puts ours above everybody else's,
It's kind of like the bush beans.
beautiful bean footage.
Beautiful
Yeah.
bean footage.
Yes.
I mean the family recipe.
Sure,
you don't.
Sure. And every processor will tell you the same thing. I mean, I know we've got some stiff competition down in Kentucky and that, and we know who they are, and they have good stuff. I don't know who they're selling to, and they don't know who we're selling to, but they've evidently got good product too. So.
Have you had a chance to try any of that?
No, I've thought about buying some from them and checking
Yeah.
it out, So, but I know another processor that's the one that sold to the folks out in San Francisco that I bought from, and I'm like, and he's supposed to have really good stuff, and I'm like, that's
Wow.
good stuff, huh?
Wow.
So we'll see.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Some people
Yeah.
say, competition is bad. Well, competition is a great thing. It keeps you on your toes. It keeps you wanting to get better, or if you've attained a certain status, to hold that and not to sit on your thumbs or
Right.
to start, to get a little lax and cut some corners. I mean,
Right,
you've
well,
got to
that's-
stay on top of your game.
That's
go
ahead.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in. I mean,
I love
I welcome
competition.
the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that keeps you guys
Yeah.
kicking out a good product.
Yeah, and that's one thing that the five of us have vowed to never cut corners. So we're going to do it the same way every time, no matter if we're up till midnight or
Yep.
whatever, So, because, we're working in the evenings most of the time. So,
And I can only imagine how that can be. I mean, we've got this podcast going. We try to get together once a week with the three of us, and it's about like herding cats trying to get the three of us together. And and then here we are tonight, and I show up, and we gave you a little grief because you forgot to bring caviar for us to try, but I forgot to bring the dang computer that we
well,
record this thing on.
I had the computer.
So Joe did save the day and had his computer, and we were able to get the software we needed and at least get this thing recorded. But
yeah, if you'd have seen us in the first couple of weeks, you'd have thought, well, I'm going to give this about another week because it was some tense moments.
Yeah.
But,
But like us with this podcast, we're looking big picture. We're in this for the long haul. This isn't something that we're just going
Right.
to do for a short time and just give up on it. Even though there are times where it's harder than what a guy would think. I mean, a guy
Sure.
wouldn't think it's too much work to sit down and record an hour-long podcast, but we're all busy. We all have families and careers and jobs and hobbies.
yeah.
But
you put out a quality product. I've listened to several of them, and very nice.
and we'll get better as time goes on.
Lord knows we don't run out of things to talk about.
No, we're pretty long-winded.
Well, with Louie, but he's not here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mike over here, he keeps us going. So I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can.
I try to keep the conversation going, and I love talking hunting, the outdoors, even this caviar.
I'll tell you, your passion for hunting has been inspirational on the postings that you
Yeah.
have and the things you've been doing. It's really incredible.
It is, and it's truly just a passion, that I've always kind of had in me. Never had the opportunity to kind of get out and explore it and to better it. And now that I have, I mean, I'm hooked. I mean,
yeah, to see a guy just embrace it,
Yep.
it's really awe-inspiring.
And I hope that it sticks with me for the rest of my life. But who knows? I mean, 10 years ago, I wanted to do nothing more than boat, recreational
Sure.
boat on the Mississippi River. But that was a different point in my life. I still wanted to hunt at that time, but I was more interested in going out and having a few drinks and
Sure.
hanging out with friends.
Everybody goes through phases.
We do, and and now having a farm, owning a farm, there's more of an investment aspect in it as well, but also getting to have some hobby return of it. getting to raise my kids on it is a huge thing.
Sure.
And with my line of work being so high stress sometimes, it is so enjoying to just get out, sit in a tree or sit in a blind and just get away from everything.
Right.
But then, I also like to eat. And so, my freezer is loaded full of back straps and loins and good food.
Yeah.
I've got some thawing out right now actually to eat tomorrow.
What night you bringing back straps down?
Well, and I do. I want to try some. I just needed to get with Louie to see if we can use the Traeger one night to cook some of this stuff up. And
Let's have some caviar. I'm sorry, some deer loin smothered in caviar.
Well, I think they could be a good compliment. I mean, we'll have Joe back out here. We'll try some product, and we'll do it. We'll cook up some stuff. We've talked about doing that. Now that the winter's coming along, maybe a Sunday afternoon or something, and make it an afternoon of trying some different dishes. And
just text Joe reminding to bring the caviar.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah. So with the caviar, I mean, when you look at Hollywood or mainstream media, or there's a country song, Champagne and Caviar and RC Cola and Lifestyles of the Not So Rich and Famous. You talk about champagne and caviar. So is caviar something that is paired with a drink or with a champagne or a wine or a beer or?
It can go with a lot of things from what I see. A lot of times it's champagne. That's kind of the stick, stigma, I guess. But wine, it can go with anything. Beer, it just depends, what your palate is. People aren't going to take something and drink it that they don't like,
right?
And they're not going to eat something they don't like either.
I don't know if you had tried it with, champagne or
vodka,
little
vodka. The traditional Russian way is a dollop of caviar and a shot of vodka.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Very good.
I was going to ask what the best way. I mean, for those, I've never tried it before, and probably a lot of the people, not knowing what it is. What's the best way to? Well, is it just?
That's a good question, Tyler.
Best way to eat it, or that's.
I like to try it. I like to eat it just by itself. So I don't get anything masking the flavor. I want to feel that. I want to taste that flavor and get what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people eat it on what they call a blini, which is like a mini pancake with some creme fraiche, which is like kind of a sour cream thing. And they put the dollop of caviar on there. To me, it's good that way. I mean, it tastes great. It's a nice little appetizer, but it kind of masks the taste. I've seen people that have eaten it just on like a Pringles potato chip, and they love it that way.
Wow.
The potato chip, and it's just kind
just
of
probably the salt and the texture, maybe.
Yeah,
so when you're eating it fresh, I've kind of watched it when you've done it. I mean, are you doing it just kind of like on the side of your hand?
You can do it that way.
Just kind of like you do with salt, taking a shot of vodka or tequila or something,
Sure, or you can take the little mother of pearl spoon.
Yep.
They just, they recommend you don't use a metal spoon because it could impart some sort of a, different taste to it. But,
right.
So they'd say mother of pearl spoon. A plastic spoon works
Yeah.
fine. You don't have to be hoity-toity.
Right. Yeah.
I might have missed it, Joe. But did we paint a good picture of what it actually looks like? Do people,
No, I guess
people
we
might
did.
not know. It's like little tiny black or dark
glass beads.
Right.
So they're dark bead. They're dark.
Ours
Okay.
is really black. Yeah, and that's the black caviar is what the folks are really after as far as when we've talked with our customers and they call me the first time, they're like, okay, what kind of caviar have you got? And I say, well, hackleback. And is that the black caviar? And they're usually Russian accent, Is that the black caviar? And I'm like, yeah, that's the black. Well, we don't want the paddlefish. I'm like, no, it's not that. It's hackleback. So nothing wrong with paddlefish, but so they're wanting that black caviar. So that's what we have.
And in layman's terms, it's fish eggs.
It's really, fish eggs,
Sturgeon.
roe, exactly, to begin with.
Yep.
But then we process it into caviar.
Sure.
So it can't be called caviar until it's really processed.
So the eggs, when they are harvested from the fish, they're not black at that point, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, they
for
are.
the most
Okay.
part. For the most part.
I've always thought of fish eggs as being yellow.
So did I.
I mean, my days of
a lot-
fishing out of the river and catfish or bass or I'm thinking in
lot-
my mind. I guess until Louie asked the question, I'm sitting here thinking about yellow fish eggs that it.
Yeah, a lot of fish are yellow, but sturgeon or hackleback is pretty well black. They might have a little gray to them, A paddlefish is a little bigger egg. It's a little more gray, a little brownish maybe. But sturgeon or hackleback is, our sturgeon is pretty well black.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was the stuff I had was very black. And
Oh, yeah. It's black as
quite tasty.
black as night, and when we process it, that's one of the things we look for is to make sure that you can almost see yourself in those eggs. 'Cause
Wow.
That's the cleanness and the purity that we were looking
Very
for.
shiny.
Yeah, very shiny. Yeah.
So, and I don't know if it's something you want to talk about or can't talk about, but like the timeline. I mean, when it comes from, the fish being caught, from a fisherman to the time that it's caviar. I mean, is it a long period of time?
No, we're within a day.
No kidding.
The fisherman's going to catch it. If he catches it and it's in the evening later, we may hold it till the next morning, but we're going to process it as quick as possible.
Wow. So usually within 24 hours, you've got the product done.
Yeah, within 20. If it's past that, we're not going to do it.
Wow.
We're going to scrap it.
Yep.
So we're basically within 12 hours, really. I mean,
fantastic.
If they bring it in late at night, we're going to first thing in the morning. It's going to be in the process state, and then we're going to be in our cure state after that for a specified amount of time.
So I mean,
unspecified.
So Joe, how much? So I know we were talking before we started here a slot limit, and I don't remember the exact slot limit, but
I don't. It's 24. We were usually working on the 24-inch end of it in our pool.
yes.
so 24 is the minimum.
Yeah, the minimum. The upper limit's like 30, I think 3 or 4 or something like that, maybe 35. But we never get close to that. So
Check your rules and regulations for
Exactly.
fishing.
Yeah,
Disclaimer
exactly.
here, but so you're in that 24 to 27, 28.
28. Yeah, 28's a big fish for us
Okay.
down in our pool. Yeah.
So on one fish, how many or how much
How much?
caviar would you actually get out of one fish?
Rule of thumb for us is probably a third of a pound, maybe something like that.
Okay.
And that's probably after you get that, you're going to screen it, and maybe that's going to be a little lower.
So you may actually wind up with a quarter pound of product.
Yeah,
from
quarter
one,
to a third. Yeah,
a third
right
somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I didn't know how
Yeah.
how many eggs would be in one.
I guess I
And
just figured it'd be much more. I don't know why. I guess when I start thinking about it, it's probably not a real dense product.
Yeah, and if you get a bigger fish, you might get a half pound, out of one fish or something like that, or a fish that might be really laden with eggs, But
I figured it would have been less. Actually.
Oh, really?
I just
Yeah.
think of you see eggs, and it doesn't look like it really has much.
It's just got a
mass
little
to it.
little egg sac in it.
they have an egg sac exactly. So you just kind of clean that out and put it into a screen it because they're going to have we call it placenta, I guess, or whatever around it, and there's some fatty stuff in there. You want to screen all that out, so we screen that out, and that's another little kind of a proprietary thing.
But if you look at the price per pound that it's selling for at the retail level, and then if you're getting a quarter pound for fish, I mean it's motivation to go out there and try to catch some.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, that's right. And, we're looking for fishermen, and we've got several that we work with, but we could always use more.
Sure.
So
The market fluctuates just like a
commodity.
lobster.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
a commodity.
It does. And that was another one of our big things. Where we were getting ready to start this first season. What do we pay the fishermen? So we're calling the buyers.
Yeah.
We got these buyers, and well, we don't know what we're going to be paying yet. So we don't know what they're going to pay. We don't know, it's one of those things. So we get down to it, and we're like, you know what? Let's just go with this number, and we go with this number, and pretty soon we tell the buyer, this is what we're wanting. Okay. Well, we were trying to get more, but he talked us down a little bit, and we're like, we'll go with that, But he wants, this many pounds, so we're like, okay, we'll go with that, and then turns out that the other competitors of ours right at the same level.
Really?
Yeah, so we guessed it just right. And we're like, that was beginner's luck, but yeah.
Hey, sometimes you need that.
Yeah. So in the recent, since the fishing has tailed off, we've been, offering more to our fishermen just to try and entice them to go out and fish because the weather's been bad and such. Now this week coming up, supposed to be really nice. So we're open for a nice week, so we'll see.
So I would be curious, again, we want to have you on again, but I would like to maybe come by and just see some of your operation at some point just to get a better visual of some of the things. I mean, I don't need to see some of the trade secret type stuff, but just I'm having a hard time just putting in my head of kind of what all goes on or what it looks like. And,
you're welcome to stop down. We have a nice little plant down there. I don't call it a plant, but we have a plant down there in Warsaw.
A little place
right
to
by
do
the
it.
river.
So that's what I would be interested to see, and then just kind of brings a little more of a perspective, I guess. We'll have you back on, and I think when we do have you back on, I want to try. Maybe we'll get some of the accessories to go along with it. Try a couple.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we go down there and check this place out. It'd be good time to follow up on a podcast, and we'll be able to taste it.
Yeah. Taste
Sure,
it.
yeah. It would be nice to taste it. Huh?
Yeah.
Louis didn't tell me about that. I don't think.
We both kind of dropped the ball.
I should have known.
Well, Mike forgot the computer. So
Yeah,
it's all
no.
right.
So
Well, it is a kind of an upper class thing, and these two over here.
yeah.
No, it's up
He's
to
like,
we
Mike and
want
Tyler
we
are
want
gonna be there.
everybody to
That's
enjoy
right.
caviar.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so that's what I was thinking. You know, I thought, you know, we come back and have another follow-up episode and do some cooking, and, you know, we'll do some turkey and some deer and whatever else we can find in the freezers, and
That would
some
be awesome.
squirrel, hopefully.
What's the price of a 1 ounce tin or a 1.5?
Well, we're retailing 1 ounce tin for $30 and 1.5 for $45. So you know that's how. Then no shipping. That's tax included. So
Wow.
And we're doing local delivery. You know, within reason. You know, that kind of thing. So we can ship it anywhere, but you know, shipping does become not prohibitive, but it's pretty expensive,
on a 1 ounce tin, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to buy, you know, a bulk amount, you know, maybe their family loves it, but they live in, you know, northern Michigan, you know, you start maybe buy a pound of it or something, you know.
Yeah, and truthfully, that's the thing. I mean, whether it's 1 ounce or a pound, the shipping is really
It's going to be the
close,
same,
very close,
darn near,
So
and what's the 1 pound price?
we
right
would
now?
sell a 1 pound container for $300.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Which is a lot of caviar.
That's
That's
a lot of
yeah.
caviar.
I mean, that'd be for a wedding reception or something like that. You know,
So you're saying don't make it a meal.
you can. You know, we would encourage that. Really.
yes.
Eat it every night.
We want to push this product.
Yeah.
And I don't think we really talked about this on the air, but we were talking about it a little bit before we got recording. And, you know, there are a lot of benefits, and, you know, it's not just a delicacy that is just going to make you fat and your cholesterol go up, or, you know, something like that. That it's something that you can enjoy and not have to get too worried about the health side effects of it.
No, that is correct, and I wish I had studied up more on, because there's a blurb about all the different things that it's good for. One of our potential customers has that on their website. And it's almost like a superfood.
Right.
All the different benefits that you get out of caviar. So,
and I think
you know,
that goes with a lot of fish in general too. That people don't realize
Sure.
just how good the fish can be. And
Sure.
and again, so that's something on our next episode. We'll try to bring even more information
I'll
about.
bring some notes.
Yeah, and I'll do a little bit more research. I mean, I'll be honest with you. This podcast was kind of thrown together at the last minute. We knew that we wanted to have Joe on. We just didn't realize we were going to record it tonight. But the schedules all kind of worked out, and we wanted to get together and get something recorded. But this gives us a very good idea of kind of a Caviar 101. Maybe when we do a next episode, we'll do a little bit of follow-up. And like I said, I'm just curious to try it with other foods and drinks. You know, maybe I'll go get some $2 champagne or something, and just to see. I mean, I don't know. I'm just so curious about it. And again, to know that it come out of that mighty Mississippi River that I've spent my whole life, you know, within a half mile from, that's what I'm the most excited about.
And that's one of the things that we kind of always talk about. Who would have known right here? That's what's going on. And these folks have been doing it for 20 years.
Well, I knew, you know, growing up years, there was always people that come up to get the hackleback for the caviar purposes. And as we've talked about, I mean, I remember growing up, and a local guy or local guys would smoke it, and we could buy it. I don't remember how much. It was cheap, you know, a couple dollars a fish, $3 or $4 a fish maybe, nice size. And I just remember, you know, having it in the fridge, and of course it smelled like smoked fish, but you come home and you just get inside that skin and just grab a handful of it off, and man, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, it's very good.
And you know, I think you kind of talked about it a little bit off the air. You've messed around and, you know, tried some different dips and stuff like that. I mean, so I think it brings good notice to another resource that our river right here can provide. That a lot of people don't ever try, and some of them probably because they don't have the opportunity, and others because they have no desire. But I think if people gave some of this stuff a little bit more of a shot, that they might be blown away by what's out there.
I think they would be, especially smoked hackleback dip. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
So
put that on a cracker around the holiday season, and you'll be amazed.
Yeah. So that's something. You know, maybe we'll try to plan this a little bit better. Maybe we can get some of the hackleback and try to smoke some up before we do this next recording, and have some hackleback fish and some of the caviar and, you know, all sorts of stuff, and give a good review on on all
You guys
sorts
give
of
me
different things.
an honest review and let us know what you
And
think.
I surely will. If it's something like, it's not for me, I'll let you know. But I'm part of me hopes that it is for me. But my checking account says I hope it's not, because if it's I may be a number one customer. But I'm excited to try it. You guys have any other questions for Joe while we're here tonight, or?
Man, Joe did a wonderful job of touching on a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, especially last minute, like I said, we didn't give you much time to prepare, and but.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this is just
it's one of those things. I think a lot of people probably don't know what it is. I mean, first I knew of it was on Facebook. I saw it one day, and so I think it's something that's really going to take off for you guys and be successful. And
you've got a good start. Usually that first year is the toughest for any business. I mean, you're a smart man. You know that type of stuff. You get through this first year. I mean, as long as you just keep working, I think.
We got 5 guys that are dedicated to making it work and providing a quality product to everybody. We're not going to put our name on it if it's not good. So that's our big thing, and we started it that way from the beginning. So.
And that's what a lot of people need to realize when you start dealing with small town companies and businesses. Our names mean a lot to us. Our reputations, as I said earlier in the podcast, it's not just the bottom line. And I think sometimes you get into more corporate America where there are no names and faces with things. It's just bottom lines and numbers.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about the caviar industry as a whole. Everybody I have dealt with is the same. And they're New York City, Seattle, San Francisco, New Orleans. They're all the same. They're the same way as us. They don't want to put their name on something that isn't good. So
sure. Because a lot of them have reputations that they build up for a long time, and
no doubt,
it takes a lot of years to build a name up, and to take just one day you can ruin everything.
Sure. They vetted us big time before they bought.
Good, and that's what you would hope. You would hope that would happen.
And I expected it, so we were ready with all the things we needed to provide them, and that was the only thing didn't know about was how are they going to receive our product, and it's been. We were ecstatic with the results we've gotten so far.
I'm sure there's a high standard of sanitation and the way things have to be cleaned and prepared.
Yeah, we've got
health departments probably,
Yeah, Joe said the county and state and everything's
food
checked
grade,
you out and. So you're doing it right, and obviously the product is speaking for itself, and I think will continue to speak for itself. And
so, if you're looking on a menu, would it be under the appetizer, or would they try to incorporate it into the main dish, maybe as a?
It depends on the restaurant. Yeah, a lot of them have it as an appetizer, I think, but I think some of them list it with the drinks. And then some do incorporate it as part of their menu, just as an item. I don't know, caviar infused, whatever, that kind of thing. But.
And one other question that I had is, are there any other variations of it? I mean, would you do a hot sauce flavored caviar? I mean, or is it just?
It's interesting that you ask. There's a company in New Orleans called Cajun Caviar. And they deal with bowfin caviar and paddlefish caviar, and they call it, and it's spiced.
Okay.
So to tell you a little bit more about that company, the owner of it is 3 women. The owners are 3 women, Emeril Lagasse's wife and 2 chefs.
Oh, wow.
And, I, of course, saw those guys, and I looked at their website, and they did not offer hackleback. They had paddlefish and bowfin, which is a lower price point, you know. So I got in touch with them, and I'm talking to Amy Wilson. Anyway, so I said, would you be interested in trying? She said, I'd love to try it. So I sent her down some samples. Never heard anything for again 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever. Finally, she says, Joe, I got a chance to try your caviar. Delicious.
Wow.
Send me your prices. How much you got? And we want to evaluate whether we want to put it on our product list. So I sent her prices and all that, and I haven't really heard anything back yet.
Right.
But she loved our caviar.
Yep.
But they're looking at putting their stuff in supermarkets down there. And it's a kicked up caviar kind of.
Yeah.
So, but so we'd be interested in doing business with them for sure, because to have something with Emeril Lagasse's wife would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, because again, they're not going to put their names on something that they don't believe in. And so I just figured, maybe there was some other variation.
There are, So that's one of them, And so we're not to that point where we're going to play with that yet,
right?
But maybe someday,
Yeah, so. You get to a point where you're thinking, all right, well, what's next? Innovation is a great thing.
Yeah, and I've heard of smoked caviar too.
No kidding.
That's kind of a niche little thing that I think a couple places have tried. I don't know how much it's been successful.
Right.
But I've seen that on there. So.
Well, and I think once you get this thing really up and going, it gives you more time to try some of these other things, and
Sure.
just for yourself, so you know
Sure.
kind of what it's like. But
yeah, we don't want to waste any. But then again, we're not opposed to sending samples to anybody.
Yeah.
And trying some different things like
Yeah.
that.
because I think there's a lot of products in this world that, if no one would have tried something different, that we would have never had today.
Who would have thought about eating fish eggs?
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, that's a true statement right
Yeah.
there. But a lot of people do. So, well, I think that'll probably wrap it up for tonight's episode. Again, Joe, thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Mike.
I just feel so much more educated on the subject now.
Yes.
But I've got a desire to learn a little bit more. Like I said, I want to come down to see kind of what you're doing and see it firsthand. And then I'll be excited to try it. And, I'm going to do a little research on ways people eat it. And we'll kind of do it up right next time we meet up. But
Sure.
Best of luck to all you guys. I mean, I have no doubt you will be successful.
Well, thanks, Mike.
It's hard work and dedication is all that it takes, and the rest will work out, itself.
Appreciate it.
Tyler, Louie, any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
It's just another fine example of what outdoorsmen can bring to.
It's exactly right.
Somebody in New York City sitting at a restaurant.
That's right, and it starts with the fishermen.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, those guys are our life's blood.
Yes.
So.
And I think too, before we get off here, we need to make notice that all 5 of you guys are all hunters, fishermen, outdoors.
Yeah,
type
you know
people.
what? We haven't been able to duck hunt or deer hunt near as much this year.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
they're checking bank poles, or they're
We've been doing
preparing,
bank pulls for catfish.
Yeah,
and
preparing caviar.
Yeah.
so that's the other thing that I think people need to realize about a product like this, that you guys just aren't some suits with with a line of credit at a bank that's saying, hey, we're going to try to find a way to make some money. You are homegrown guys that love the outdoors, love the river, and are just trying to continue on providing a homegrown product that a lot of people around the country and the world can potentially enjoy.
Yeah, we're happy to put the Warsaw name on it.
Yes.
So that stamps it as ours. So
Yep.
kind of.
And I still have some pride. I don't live in Warsaw anymore, but I still have pride in my hometown. You see great things coming out of it, like we've talked about with Warsaw Lions and the stuff that you guys do with that. And Joe's a big part of that as well.
Sure.
Warsaw is, the population may be declining a little bit. I just went down there today and I seen the sign 1,600 people. I remember, 20 years ago, we had one sign that said 1,800, another sign that said 1,700, so we're down to 1,600. So we're kind of going the wrong way, which so goes, small town Midwest USA.
That's what I was telling the fellow from Seattle. I said, well, we're from a small town. He goes, how small? I said, about 1,600. And I forget what he said. Well, I'm like 3.6 million. So,
Unbelievable.
He goes, but I'll tell you what, you got good product, and we can move it. So.
Yeah, so that's all that matters right there.
Yeah.
And all right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up here today. We do appreciate all you guys listening. Again, as I said earlier in the episode, we've got some big plans with some bigger names in the outdoor industry that are interested in coming along and sharing some time with us. So we're excited to bring that to you. We do have another month of deer season left, another month of bow season anyways. So we've got a little bit of hunting yet to do that will wrap up 2018 season. I am going to go out tomorrow and get my squirrel gun sighted in, and maybe get
Squirrel
some
land.
maybe get some squirrel land time coming up soon. But I still want to get out and get a couple, at least one more doe, chase after a little bit. I'm kind of missing it, and I know that it's going to be a long 9 months once the season ends. So that's going to wrap things up. Again, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, DeerLand Podcast. You can check us out on our website, DeerLandPodcast.com. Please share us to all your friends, like, comment, subscribe. Help us get the word out on this program. Again, we're trying to make it better each week. We hope that you are enjoying it, and we'll hope to see you next time.